Crying is the most important part of Devilman Crybaby. Devilman is about empathy, best shown through crying. Similar to the Wonder Woman movie and The Great Gatsby, love is the key in empathy and finding that personal connection with another person. The show is called Devilman Crybaby. Crybaby is in the title. It's cry. It's the best. It's so good. It's not just sadness crying. Devilman Crybaby's stance on toxic masculinity is anyone who calls someone a crybaby is a massive idiot and is actively and literally contributing to the end of the world. The show's ending is a big sticking point for several people, mostly because it fits in with the several other movies that I love, which had unsatisfying endings for the audience. It's a funny thing to try to convey a message to an audience through a fictional story. The audience is used to having a character, seeing their fault, seeing them grow through the challenges of their fault, and overcome it by the end. This leaves the audience satisfied that they've seen a whole, cohesive story, which is nice. But on the other hand, this satisfaction stops anything within themselves in order to take action themselves. Matt Damon started cleaning up the world. I don't have to. Good for Matt Damon. I feel better myself because of an action someone else took, and the world is no better, even if it drives up awareness. Driving up awareness is the participation prize of activism. So, if the audience can be too pleased with a story that has a message, that arc and change that the character took scabs over the scar that was supposed to be the lesson. However, you can interrupt this pattern. Robocop does it by having the good guys having already won from the beginning. There's no way to take them down. They already own the city and rename parts of it. So you can take the arc and not finish it. Let the hero's victory be hollow, let the good guys win, make the heroes escape. And this leaves an unsettled feeling in the audience. This unsettled feeling in the audience is why people didn't like the ending of Wolf of Wallstreet or several stories from Hunter S. Thompson. And that's fiction and non-fiction, though Hunter S. Thompson really blurred that line pretty hard. The stories end and the world is still messed up. The bad guy has essentially won. The little guys lick their wounds and crawl away and might escape, but the problems of society are still there. At the end of The Rum Diary or Where the Buffalo Roam, nothing has really changed. There's been an exciting escape scene, or there's been leaving and a break off of friends and a call for retribution, but the bad guys win. Because the bad guys did win in reality in Puerto Rico, where massive debt comes up. Weed is still highly regarded as a terrible, terrible drug, even though it's mostly harmless, and used to discriminate specifically against poor people and minorities. And people in the White House still kinda really want to prosecute it. Weird gremlins. The Wolf of Wall Street ends with the main character teaching people how to sell stuff, after getting out of what is the equivalent of tennis camp of prisons. Does this all sound a little too political for you in an unscrutinized field like anime, where pulpy stuff comes out about girls in thigh-high leggings with magical powers and where the guy walks in on them all the time? Of course it's not too political. All art is reflective of the culture it was made in, and political in nature. Grow up. We're talking about the hard truths. Is that too harsh to say on an essay about empathy? Okay, please grow up. Alright, let's circle back around to that Wonder Woman example from the beginning. Wonder Woman is a movie that muses over whether or not the world of man is worth being saved. And in the end, Wonder Woman decides that it is worth being saved. Because love. Like her love, or man's love, or she felt love, or the potential. It was love. Love is the answer, whatever that means. So Wonder Woman wins in the end, and the world is okay, and everything still exists, and she did all the growing herself. So did the audience really learn anything from that? Did people take away that lesson? Yes, it turns out they did, because several people are very smart and analyzed this movie really hard. But I'm talking about the normal, small hobbitses of people. Did they walk out of the movie with that lesson? I posture that they didn't. So Devilman goes into the big political questions of what divides us and what blocks us from empathy. The first people that feel this is the audience, as a little gang of talky, rappy guys corners a woman, which is quite the anime trope. And the further anime trope of the protagonist interrupting it comes in. But violence doesn't happen. These guys aren't very aggressive. But then comes Rio and he blows ass all over that dock. What is this? What is Rio? Rio quickly demonstrates he does not value human life. He blows a hole in the dock with a gun to the rappers that we later learn are harmless and very confused in that opening scene. He dismisses the personhood of the people partying. He dehumanizes them and considers them expendable before he goes through on a little rampage. Several people dismiss Akira for not being as fast as the others, but still seeing that he runs with them and has fun. People don't call other Miki by her name because there's someone that's better than her, giving value to two people's lives from an external force. It's one thing to value good work, but there's a line that's been crossed somewhere where we value a person less because they're not the absolute best. First, the audience discriminated against the rappers, but then we're shown even more their discrimination when Miki blows one off and when they're all held at gunpoint in the store where they were doing nothing wrong. Even other Miki and Akira also blow them off. Akira blows them off a dock. Miki blows one off for a date until she really listens to the things he says. I don't have a spot for that later in the essay, so just take it. Other Miki changes her mind.
People started to call me Miko.
Miko? Then, in quite the display of nationalism and social media, Rio makes 2 viral videos, the first of which uncovers that demons exist in a riot that he sets up to set up the social media craze that accelerates every bad thing that leads to the ending. Violence in the streets, mobs, wide hysteria and fear from this unknown enemy. And then, by his very nationalist call, I'm going to say nationalist so we realize what we're talking about here, that anyone who dislikes society the way it is or seems like an outsider will turn into a demon, and this kicks it into high gear. Miki is not a full Japanese person and is easily discriminated against by people when she's a little girl, and at the end of the show when a mob comes for her because she doesn't belong. Nationalist. Doesn't belong. It displays the xenophobia and racism of Japan, but also this xenophobia and racism exists other places. I would say almost every other place. So many places. The feeling of isolation and lack of trust in this atmosphere drives Miki's mother to take Miki's demon-infested brother away from the family, where they otherwise could have been helped by Akira or their father, or come together for this problem and watch their son, which leads to the end of the mother, the father, and the brother. It's pretty bad. I kind of want to cry now. I really think...
But why is this guy crying?
That I should, and it would demonstrate a lot. But let's get angry for a second. All this stuff seems pretty edgy. But let's compare it to a similar property. Spawn by Todd McFarlane of Image Comics. Spawn is a similarly output human who gets the power of a devil and is sent to Earth in hopes of joining Satan and starting the apocalypse. The difference being that everyone in Spawn is one-dimensional and mean. Is that be two dimensions? Are they mean? Is the mean their one? Mean might be their one. Mean or pathetic and waiting for Spawn. Spawn is spectacle for spectacle's sake. I bring all this up because it might seem like an old thing, but it is current. Todd McFarlane has announced his Extreme universe will be coming out. Extreme superheroes. They're violent and swear and have... He said it's going to make Deadpool look like nothing, because his is going to be so extreme. This guy... Spawn is grade A level violence, trash, spectacle that I look forward to forgetting about the events of the movie as soon as I finish watching it. Miki and Akira, on the other hand, are symbols for good in the story. Akira cries over the loss of Miki's family, which is his family's too. He cries and wails so loud as Miki herself is crying and wailing, and they're crying together, but they're like a house apart. Through their arcs, we're able to see a little glimpse of redemption of man, devil, and the internet. This show is really good with its duplicity or duality, showing off two sides of expectations of both. For every good example, there's a connected bad example that shows that people are complicated. As I aforementioned, the rappers are discriminated against, but at the end, one of the rappers turns against the rest. There's lots of thought being put into things in the show. Akira as Devilman, appearing as a big old scary demon, turns a crowd away from violence through empathy. All he does is stand and cry. He stands before a mob that was just actively stoning people at the stake. He stands before them and cries. He displays his emotion. He talks to them. And he waits. They yell at him. They abuse him. They call him a crybaby. Yet, he stands there. And you're wondering, is he gonna lose? Because at this point, it's very possible for Devilman to lose. And he starts to lose in later scenes. If Devilman attacks them, if Devilman runs away, he loses this encounter. And something happens that is rare in media and in real life, where Devilman actually turns the crowd, and it ends with the mob hugging Devilman in his big, furry, evil, muscular, weird Devilman form, and then they help the victims that they were just tying up and apologize and try to treat them. Then we have Miki, who believes and trusts and accepts the differences between her and her friends. She accepts Akira as a demon, as the Devilman, and sees past that fault and gives him a chance, as well as her other friend Miki. I can't forget the rappers. But Miki's most powerful moment also redeems social media, when she gets online in a chat room and pretty much proclaims that the Devilmen are still part men, and that there's mass hysteria, and she makes a call from her heart to settle down everything. And this is spread pretty wide and actually gathers a Devilman army, but at the same time, this is a little glimpse of the good that social media can do. But they are glimpses. They're fleeting moments of redemption. But these moments leave a big effect on the watcher. There needs to be more moments like this in reality, and more affecting moments like this in story, to really talk to people. Alison Kilkenny is a extreme leftist activist who goes to several protests and doesn't trust the police and lives in New York. She shares the story of the crowd was getting pushy and the police were getting pushy back. But there was this elderly woman who was stuck in between the two. And Alice yelled to help the person, and several protesters and the police helped get the woman away from the crowd to safety. There needs to be more moments like this. More moments where we accept others completely, of this is our need, and more of other people listening. understanding the needs of others and making room for them is an extremely powerful thing. Otherwise, we will literally destroy ourselves, fighting among collapsing lines divided by hatred, misunderstanding, and a lack of empathy. Hey, thanks for watching. I would like you to subscribe. This is going to be the first video for February, and February is going to be Empathy Month, the month of love, but we're focusing on empathy because love is vague and empathy is pretty specific. So look forward to that. Feel free to tell me what you think about the video or Devilman. If you want to watch it, it is very violent and full of nudity, so be warned. Otherwise, if you have a complaint about spoilers in this video, please refer back to my spoiler video, because that is the mode of operation for this entire channel. Bye bye, it's the bye bye song.